Today we're here to explore the intersection of adventure travel and transformation design. As we go through this section, we will establish some baseline understandings of what we mean by those terms, and then explore where they overlap and how one can grow the power of the other. So I wanted to start with a couple of fundamental questions. First, what is transformation? This is an interesting question and one that there's been lots of research done about, but I like to think that, generally speaking, transformation is about deepening connections. It's then in turn about positive change from new ways of being and seeing through experiencing those deeper connections. Transformation is about breaking through barriers to find a self that maybe was unknown before, or about seeing through new eyes and in different shoes, about being able to see the world from someone else's perspective and in turn creating a positive impact in your life and those around you. Dr. Adam Galinsky, who's a professor at Columbia Business School and the author of numerous articles on the connection between travel and creativity, notes that, quote, foreign experiences increase both cognitive flexibility and depth and integrativeness of thought, the ability to make deep connections between disparate forms. I like to think if we were to replace the words foreign experiences with adventure or transformational experiences, it gives us a good picture of how adventure and transformation intersect. The second question we want to ask is, what is adventure? I'm sure this is probably obvious to you, but I feel like it's important to set a context and a baseline for what we mean. Adventure travel experiences are those that take us away from our status quo in tangible ways. I like to think of them as high contrast experiences that differ deeply from our normal way of life. These experiences can be physical, they can be emotional, but at the end, they're about true exploration, both inwardly and outwardly. There's a quote by Phil Cousineau that I really like that touches on this subject. He said, "Remember again and again that the true pilgrimage is into the undiscovered land of your own imagination, which you could not have explored any other way than through these lands, with gratitude in your satchel and compassion for all you see as your touchstone." I really love the way that he touches on exploring our inner world via experiences in the outer world. Now, I think this is a good place to pose another question that's worth answering, which is, why adventure in the first place? We ask this question to make sure that we're rooted in the reasons that, one, people seek out adventure in the first place, and two, why is it a powerful conduit for transformation? So the reasons that I believe people seek out adventure are first and foremost to challenge ourselves, to place ourselves in the world in a place that might be unfamiliar in order to test our boundaries and our barriers. We do this in order to discover the unknown about ourselves or the world around us. And ultimately, we do it to learn and grow as people. And maybe even we do it for fun, which is a totally legitimate reason as well. There's a topic that comes to mind speaking about this that's called flow states. Flow states is that place where our brain, our heart, and our soul are in alignment and allow us to access higher levels of cognition while engaged in certain activities. This topic was studied in depth, and the term was coined by Dr. Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi. He said, and in his flow theory, postulates that three conditions need to be met to achieve a flow state. One must be involved in an activity with a clear set of goals and progression. This adds direction and structure to the task. You can think of things like setting intentions and flow of experience as we move through a place. Two, the task at hand must have clear and immediate feedback. This helps a person negotiate any changing demands and allows them to adjust their performance to maintain their flow state. This is where we get into talking about time for reflection and for processing, in order to allow for that real-time alteration of our status quo and our worldview, and ultimately our way of being and seeing. And 3, one must have a good balance between the perceived challenges of the task at hand and their own perceived skills. One must have confidence in one's ability to complete the task at hand. This is where we'll talk extensively about finding a balance between challenge and their ability of the traveler to overcome those challenges in a positive way. So, with those criteria met, we're now accessing higher levels of cognition. In its purest intersection, adventure and transformation come together in a few ways. If we understand what transformations are or might be in travel, as well as what we mean by adventure and why it affects us in certain ways, we arrive at this crucial intersection. Outward adventure as a conduit to inward exploration, and ultimately new understanding that leads to positive changes for people, planet, and culture. With those higher levels of cognition, we put our brain, our heart, and our soul into alignment, which invites us to deeper connections with ourself, others, and the infinite. Now that we've established this intersection, how can adventure travel experiences be a catalyst for transformation? Well, I want to share with you 5 ways that adventure can lead to transformation. First, adventure travel challenges our barriers as people. These experiences provide an avenue or a framework even by which we can explore the definitions of self within the context of an activity or a task. This lends itself to those higher flow states and thus accessing higher levels of consciousness to see the world around us in a new way that we wouldn't have seen it before. Overcoming challenges also binds us together with others in a shared struggle that can remove previously held notions about people and the world around us that may be different than us or where we come from. Also, if we realize that this is possible, then we ask ourselves, what else is possible? New paradigm come into existence for what's possible in ourselves and in the world, and allows us to see those transformations take place. The second is that adventure travel removes us from our familiar status quo world. These high contrast activities strip us of those familiar crutches that we all have and force us to rely on our critical thinking ability and our ability to be nimble and adaptive in situations. The bubbles that we all live in have sort of a positive feedback loops and confirmation biases that lead us to a narrow view of the world around us. Adventure travel is the opposite of how we function on a day-to-day basis. Third, adventure travel connects us to people that are different than us. I kind of think of this as the adventure of daily life. Connecting with people where they are and in what paradigm they exist in creates all those opportunities for deeper connections and deeper understandings of who we are and who others are. When we meet somebody face to face, especially someone whose life is very different than ours, we start to expand our idea of what is valuable and what is worth respect and what is worth love and compassion. Through adventure, we bond over a shared experience that is challenging and opens up emotional pathways of everyday activities cannot. 4, an elemental soul-level connection with nature that exists in adventure travel. Over time, as humans, we've undergone a journey of separation as a species. We've been separated from our foundational relationships to each other and with nature. We've lost that reciprocal and symbiotic relationship with the natural world that was predicated on an equal value of human and non-human beings. Through adventure travel experiences, that intentional time in nature removes us from our norms, can challenge us in many ways, and rekindles that soul-level relationship with nature. Ultimately, a renewed relationship with nature will lead to a positive change in the way we choose to live in regards to our stewardship and our care for the planet. And lastly, adventure travel exposes us to something beyond ourselves. I think of these experiences as spiritual or emotional adventures. In these experiences, there's an expansion of what is possible or what is real or what is worth value. It gives us a new perspective of our own smallness in the grand scheme of things, but also our interconnectedness to all things across all time and space. Those flow experiences and adventure activities tap into something that's elemental and raw that exists inside of all of us. It gives us that sense of belonging to the cosmos or to that eternal web of all things that have been and all things that will be. So as you can see, as adventure travel designers, you are the guides on this journey of transformation. You're uniquely positioned with your expertise to tap into those deeper levels of consciousness and connection. With your skills and using adventure activities, this lends to an understanding of a power that adventure can have and an impact it can have in positive ways. True transformation through travel is the idea that deeper connections to self, others, and to the infinite lead to new ways of being and seeing, and ultimately, again, positive change in our lives and the world around us. Adventure travel truly has an opportunity that few other modes of travel have, and I'm just really excited for you to be here and for us to explore those intersections together.